Alonzo.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the July 18, 2024 Ascension Parish Council meeting. We'll call to order, and I'm asking Mr. Arsenault, please lead us in the invocation and pledge of allegiance.
Dear Lord, thank you for another wonderful day, God. We pray that you would bless this meeting, bless our decisions, God. We pray that Ascension Parish would be a beacon in our country as we are divided, God, and we pray that you would help us to make sure that our community is together. In your name we pray. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Arsenault. Let's see, roll call, Ms. Secretary. We are missing Mr. Turner, Mr. Robert, and Ms. Alonzo. Everyone else is present. Chair's addition. The chair has no additions tonight. Item number 4, public comment sign-in period. If anyone would like to speak on any of the agenda items, please come see Ms. McKee over here. Fill out a red card when we get to that agenda item. You have 3 minutes to speak about that item. And item number 5, the parish president's report. Ms. Quimon is not with us tonight, but we have Ms. Phillips.
Good evening. Just a quick reminder, we've got Youth Fest just around the corner. On Saturday, July 21st, from 10 to 2 p.m., we'll be at the Gonzales Civic Center. And
July 27th.
July 27th, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you said 21st.
I wrote 27th. And on Saturday, August 3rd, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., we'll be on the West Bank at the WAG Center. At both the events, we'll have free school supplies, backpacks, uniforms, food, music, and much more. We are still looking for volunteers, so please go to Volunteer Ascension to sign up. And we are so thankful to our many sponsors, including Oxy, CF Industries, and Shell.
Cool, awesome. Thank you, Ms. McKee. I will tell you that's a phenomenal event. I forget the numbers on the West Bank last year, but I want to say it was in excess of 700 backpacks. And I know in the Gonzales one, we went through 500 backpacks in less than 2 hours. So I think this year we're going to have 1,000 ready to go. With the school vouchers, Saks does a phenomenal job at donating them vouchers for very cheap. So yes, I encourage everyone, please come out July 27th in Gonzales and August 3rd at the WAC Center in the West Bank. Thank you. Anything else, Ms. Phillips? Nope. All right. Okay, we're going to now move on to the consent agenda. Everyone wish Ms. McKee some luck.
Adoption of June 20th, 2024 regular council meeting minutes. Approval of edit to the cooperative endeavor agreement between Ascension Parish government and Ascension Parish School Board that was previously approved by the Ascension Parish Council in January 24 to coordinate resources to support early childhood education throughout the parish. Approval of amendment number 1 to the agreement for autopsy transport services with Dr. Christopher Trevino and Harry Smith Jr. doing business as KT Mortuary Transport Services, LLC, to add $25,000 to the contract amount to pay remaining invoices owed for a new not-to-exceed amount of $74,999. Approval of addendum number 2 to the sublease agreement with Donaldsonville Developments, LLC, for part of the building located at 318 Mississippi Street, Donaldsonville, to extend the term for an additional year through September 20th, 2025, and increase the monthly rent amount to $13,763.19 as per the original sublease terms. Approval of renewal of master services contract with Inmon Enterprises, LLC, doing business as Janet King of Baton Rouge for janitorial services at parish facilities for a term of 1 year beginning August 18th, 24. Total contract amount not to exceed $1,594,093. Approval of cooperative endeavor agreement between Ascension Parish Government and Lifehouse. Lifehouse will provide general and skilled labor personnel to Ascension Parish Government, and Ascension Parish Government will provide employment and pay the laborers provided by Lifehouse at the agreed upon rate according to the rate sheet attached to this agreement. This cooperative endeavor agreement shall terminate on December 31st, 24, with a total not to exceed amount of $149,000. Approval of legal services contract with Butler Snow to represent the parish in legal services in connection with the proposed creation of infrastructure development districts and or economic development districts. Payment is on an hourly basis based on the Louisiana Attorney General's maximum hourly fee schedule with a not to exceed amount of $70,000. Approval of amendment number 1 to the master services contract with Keeler Bode, doing business as Innovative Aquatic Solutions, to decrease the total amount of the contract by $22,774 for a new not-to-exceed amount of $46,726 due to the completion of the pond cleaning at the Ascension Parish Government Complex. Approval of amendment number 1 to the master services contract with Clean Earth of Alabama for household hazardous materials collection to increase the contract amount by $27,000 for a total not to exceed amount of $80,694.35. Approval of change order number 5, R.J. Daigle & Sons Contractors for the Ascension Parish Overlay Program Project H0147046 to reconcile final quantities for milling, patching, overlays, and associated activities, and to add 116 days to the contract. This change order will decrease the contract amount by negative $273,965.29 for a new total contract amount of $3,610,274.47. Approval of change order number 3, Richard Price Contracting for the Church Point Road and Roddy Road Roundabout Project and the Move Ascension Program Project H006459 to remove unforeseen asphalt and base course. This change order will increase the contract amount by $4,600 for a new total contract amount of $1,956,829.96. Approval of change order number 4, Richard Price Contracting for the Church Point Road and Roddy Road Roundabout Project in the Move Ascension Program Project H006459 to add an additional catch basin adjacent to the apartment complex parking lot. This change order will increase the contract amount by $3,485.13 for a new total contract amount of $1,960,315.09. Approval of change order number 5, Richard Price Contracting Company for the Church Point Road, Roddy Road Roundabout Project in the Move Ascension Program, Project H006459 to remove center island landscaping, provide for a concrete pump truck to place concrete in the center island of the roundabout, and add 6 working days to the contract. This change order will decrease the contract amount by negative $10,342.64 for a new total contract amount of $1,949,972.45. Approval of contract between Ascension Parish Government and R.J. Daigle & Sons Contractors, Parish Road 929 Overlay US 61 Parker Road State Project H014642 in the amount of $1,139,685.32, and approval for the parish president to execute this contract. DOTD did advertise for, receive, and accept a bid from the contractor for work on construction project. Approval of amendment number 1 to the master contract for professional services with Pentel Contracting for the water plant, media change, and paint community water enrichment fund, 2021 CWEF ASC 0001, PO number 20006445518 project for additional work to repair a leak in existing filter floor, approximately 15 foot in length. This total amount for this amendment is $1,431 for a new contract amount of $98,487 and no change in contract term.
Thank you, Ms. McKee. At this time, would anyone like to remove anything from the consent agenda for further discussion? All right, Chair, entertain a motion. Motion by Mr. Hillensbeck, a second by Mr. Vornadoe. Any objection? Hearing none, so moved. Ms. McKee, we have Mr. Robert and Mr. Turner now with us.
Big traffic jam over there.
Did y'all carpool? Yeah.
I had to leave my car on the side of the road.
All right, general business, 7A, approval of amendment number 1 for the master services contract for parish-wide dumpster rental to transfer the contract from Trash Rangers of Louisiana Commercial LLC to Waste Management of Louisiana LLC. Have a motion by Mr. Mason, a second by Mr. Robert. I do have a question. Just look, so if I'm trying to think, so if we're not happy, right, with the service that we get from Waste Management, new management. Do we still have that, kind of that little parachute for us to get out of this?
The contract expires August 31st.
Okay.
So we have one more year option that we can renew it for the same price that we've got it right now. So.
But we do have a termination clause in that,
Yes.
in that contract,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
I'm just saying, we haven't done business with them, since I've been here. And I know it's garbage, but we have so many facilities and properties. I know it's a big deal. We were, What did he say? Oh, it is a pun. I love a good pun. He's
So
being
far, we're
rude.
seeing the same service on our end.
Okay.
What we get, everything's going great. It's the
Gotcha.
same thing we've been getting for the whole contract term.
Okay,
So right now, everything's good. And like I said, we have one more full month and the rest of July. And then we can renew it for one more year at this price, or we could go out to bid.
okay. All right, Mr. Robert has a question.
Yeah, just to kind of talk on your question you had also, especially in garbage contracts, and my attorney friend can correct me here if I'm wrong. If they do miss services or they don't pick up dumpsters, it ultimately almost voids their contract whenever they don't come do that service that week or that month. Just the way it's typically set up. So we should be good either way, even if it's not in there.
Okay, cool. I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Randy. So I have a motion and a second. Any objection? Hearing none, so moved. All right, 7B, approval of amendment number 1 to the sponsorship agreement at Lamar Dixon Expo Center for Trash Rangers of Louisiana Commercial LLC to transfer the agreement to Waste Management of Louisiana LLC. We have a motion by Mr. Hillensbeck, a second by Mr. Mason. Any objection? Hearing none, so moved. All right, 7C, resolution ordering and calling a special election to be held in road lighting districts number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, and number 6 of the Parish of Ascension, State of Louisiana, on Saturday, December 7, 2024, for the purpose of authorizing the renewal of the 5 mil tax on assessed valuation of all properties subject to taxation in each of the districts for a period of 10 years for the purpose of providing and maintaining electric lights on the streets, roads, highways, alleys, and public areas in the districts, and further make an application to the State Bond Commission for consent and authorization to hold the aforesaid election, and further providing for other matters in connection therewith. Motion by Mr. Robert and a second by Mr. Hillensbeck. Any objection? Hearing none, so moved. 7D, approval of the cooperative endeavor agreement between the Ascension Chamber of Commerce and Ascension Parish Government for the creation, production, and publishing of a local podcast regarding organizations, professions, leaders, and topics relevant to Ascension Parish.
I do have a question on that.
Yep, Mr. Robert, no, I'm sorry, Mr. Joseph, were you first?
No,
Oh,
He's District 1.
Mr. Robert,
I'm not necessarily against this by any means, but in the sense of partnership, what type of funds are going from Ascension, from the parish to be shared with the chamber, or is it funds? What type of commitment are we giving and what are we getting back in return?
there is no exchange of funds. It is the chamber, right, using our Channel 21 studios and creating the content, and then they'll take that content with them and use it on their social media and things like that.
And we're doing this for no charge?
That's correct.
Right, there's no monetary value of the contract.
Well, there's a monetary value to that.
Yes, there is some staff time
Yeah.
involved in
No,
equipment.
yeah, true, yeah.
I don't want to pass up an opportunity for us to even offer something to other groups, even such as the chamber. The chamber's not the only one like that.
We do filming with the Council on Aging, sometimes the Sheriff's Office comes in, registrar of voters, so this one's a little bit more constant, where they'll be doing one podcast a month, and the other ones aren't quite as consistent.
Okay. Like I said, I'm not voting against it, but I do have some questions, and I think it's gonna open up some opportunity in the future, but in the same sense, I want them to understand if we decide to do this as some type of supplemental income for that station, then we may change that in the future, as far as charging them and not charging them. Because, I mean, I really don't see what we're getting if we're just letting them use our facility and they're putting out their stuff. Is it really a
Yeah, so each of,
cooperative endeavor agreement, or is it?
each of these are another way to engage our residents on what's going on in the community, and we realize that the Chamber of Commerce has a different audience sometimes than the parish government does, so this is just another kind of outreach opportunity, and this, it really is a pilot. The Chamber hasn't done this before, we haven't, so we're gonna give it a shot and see what it looks like,
All right, thank you.
with your approval.
Any more questions? I have a motion by Mr. Mason, and a second by Ms. PT. Any objection? Hearing none? So moved. All right, introduction of ordinances. 8A, introduction of ordinance, ordering and calling a special election to be held in the parish of Ascension, State of Louisiana on December 7, 2024, to authorize certain amendments to the home rule charter of the parish of Ascension, State of Louisiana, to provide the secretary and related staff shall be appointed by the parish council, and to delete the language governing authority members shall receive an annual salary not to exceed the maximum amount allowed by police jurors by state law, making application to the State Bond Commission, and providing for other matters in connection therewith. So I have a motion to introduce, and there's also an attached notice that I have to read for the public record. All right, notice of introduction of ordinance and public hearing. Notice is hereby given that the following entitled ordinance was introduced in writing in the form required for adoption at a meeting of the parish council of the parish of Ascension, State of Louisiana, on July 18, 2024, and laid over for publication of notice. Ordinance, an ordinance ordering and calling a special election to be held in the parish of Ascension, State of Louisiana, on Saturday, December 7, 2024, to authorize certain amendments to the home rule charter of the parish of Ascension, State of Louisiana, making application to the State Bond Commission, and providing for other matters in connection therewith. Notice is hereby further given that the parish council of the parish of Ascension, State of Louisiana, will meet on Thursday, August 1st, 2024, at 6 p.m. at the Ascension Parish Courthouse, 300 Holmes Street, Donaldsonville, Louisiana, at which time there will be a public hearing on the adoption of the aforesaid ordinance. And we do have a motion introduced by Mr. Mason. All right, 8B, introduction of ordinance declaring surplus and authorization of sale and/or transfer of miscellaneous movable equipment. Motion introduced by Mr. Mason. All right, so we are moving on to our public hearing ordinances. 9A, reading of an ordinance to levy taxes on the 2024 tax roll on all properties subject to taxation by Ascension Parish government for road infrastructure districts. Flip my page. Mr. DuPatti, there you go.
Be it ordained that the following millage are hereby levied on the 2024 tax roll on all properties subject to taxation by Ascension Parish government for the following road infrastructure districts. 2024 millage: Brookstone Road, District 14.88, Cambridge Oaks Road, District 15, Camellia Cove Road, District 15, Germany Oaks, Second Fowler Road, District 15, Highland Trace Road, District 14.78, Jamestown Crossing, First Fowler Road, District 15, Jamestown Crossing, Second Fowler Road, District 15, Villas at Rosewood Road, District 14.74, Pelican Crossing, Fifth Fowling Road, District 15, Riverton, First Fowling Road, District 15, Cottages at Savannah Road, District 15, Pelican Point, Victoria Court Road, District 15, Clare Court Road, District .78, Windsor Park Road, District 15, Belle Sylvain Road, District 15, Forest Wood Road, District 14.96. Be it further ordained that the proper administrative officials of the parish of Ascension, State of Louisiana, be, and they are hereby empowered, authorized, and directed to spread said taxes as herein above set forth upon the assessment roll of said parish for the year 2024, and to make the collection of the taxes imposed for and on behalf of the taxing authority according to the law, and that the taxes herein levied shall become a permanent lien and privilege on all property subject to taxation, as herein set forth, and collection thereof shall be enforceable in the manner provided by law. The foregoing ordinance was read in full The roll was called and adoption thereof, and the ordinance was adopted by the following votes.
We have a motion to open up public hearing by Mr. Mason. A second by Mr. Robert. Motion to close public hearing by Mr. Robert. A second by Mr. Mason. Motion to move the ordinance by Mr. Mason. A second by Mr. Hillensbeck. Any objection? Hearing none, so moved. D, reading of an ordinance to increase millage rates but not in excess of the prior year's maximum rates on all taxable property shown on the official assessment roll for the year 2024, and when collected, the revenues from said taxes shall be used only for the specific purpose for which said taxes have been levied. Mr. Dupatti.
Be it ordained by the Council of the Parish of Ascension, Louisiana, in a public meeting on July 18, 2024. This meeting was conducted in accordance with the Open Meetings Law and additional requirements of Article 7, Section 23C of the Louisiana Constitution and RS 47-1705B, that the taxing district voted to increase the millage rates, but not in excess of the prior year's maximum rates on all taxable property shown on the official assessment roll for the year 2024, and when collected, the revenues from said taxes shall be used only for the specific purpose for which said taxes have been levied. Said millage rates are 2024 millage and 2024 levy, Brookstrong Road District 14.8815, Camber Oaks Road 1515, Camille Cove Road District 1515, Germany Oaks Second Filing Road District 1515, Highland Trace Road District 14.7815, Jamestown Crossing First Filing 1515, Jamestown Crossing Second Filing 1515, Villas at Rosewood Road District 14.7415, Pelican Crossing Fifth District Road Crossing 1515, Riverton First Filing Road District 1515, Cottages at Savannah Road District 1515, Pelican Point Victoria Court Road District 1515, Clare Court Road District .7815, Winston Park Road District 1515, Bell Savannah Road District 1515, Forest Wood Road District 14.9615. Be it further ordained that the assessor of the parish of Ascension shall extend upon the assessment roll for the year 2024 the taxes herein levied, and the tax collector of the said parish shall collect and remit the same to said taxing authority in accordance with law. The foregoing ordinance was read in full, and roll was called on adoption thereof, and the ordinance was adopted by no less than 2/3 of the total membership of the taxing authority, voting in favor as required by Article 7, Section 23C of the Louisiana Constitution and RS 47-1705B.
Motion to open public hearing by Mr. Mason. Second by Mr. Orsino. Motion to close by Mr. Mason with a second by Mr. Vornado. And we did not have any public speakers, correct? Okay. Motion to move the ordinance by Mr. Mason. A second by Mr. Hillensbeck. Any objection? Hearing none, so moved. 9G, reading of an ordinance to declare 1998 Sunshine Homes manufactured home, VIN ALS 04681, an asset of EA Drainage Number 1 as surplus and provide for the sale and/or transfer of same. Mr. Dupatti.
To declare surplus and authorize the sale and transfer of miscellaneous movable property, whereas East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District Number 1 has a certain asset that is surplus and is no longer viable to retain, and whereas the asset no longer serves or has any public purpose, and whereas East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District Number 1 desires to declare said asset as surplus and provide for the sale and or transfer of same, whereas be it ordained by the East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District Number 1 Board and Ascension Parish Council acting as the governing authority in and for the Parish of Ascension, do hereby declare the listing of the asset attached hereto and made a part hereof as Exhibit A as surplus and authorize the sale or transfer of same. Severability in the event that any portion of this ordinance is ever held invalid or unconstitutional for any reason by any court of competent jurisdiction over it, such portion shall be deemed a separate, distinct, and independent provision and shall not affect the validity remaining portions of the ordinance. Effective date, the ordinance shall be in full effect as permitted by law. The ordinance has been submitted to a vote. The vote thereon was as follows.
Motion to open public hearing by Mr. Mason, a second by Mr. P.T. No public speakers. Motion to close by Mr. Mason, second by Mr. Orsino. Motion to move the ordinance by Mr. Mason, second by Mr. Hillensbeck. Any objection? Hearing none, so moved. 9J, reading of an ordinance to amend Ascension Parish Code of Ordinances to add subsection E, records retention to Chapter 2, Administration, Article 1 in general, Section 2-8, Public Documents. Mr. Dupatti.
Purpose to amend the Ascension Parish Code of Ordinances to add Section C, Records Retention, to Chapter 2, Administration, Article 1, in general, the Ascension Parish Code of Ordinances, Section 2-8, Public Documents. Whereas Ascension Parish is a local governmental subdivision as defined by Article 6, Section 44 of the Louisiana Constitution of 1974. And whereas Ascension Parish government is the governing and responsible body over the public records within Ascension Parish government. And whereas Article 6 of the Home Rule Charter of Ascension Parish, adopted May 4th, 1993, identifies the process and manner in which to adopt ordinances regulating the laws of this parish. And whereas the Secretary of State's office encourages local agencies to develop and maintain records retention schedule in order to comply with the regulations of Louisiana Revised Statute, Section 44. And whereas records retention schedule must be renewed every 5 years. And whereas the records retention schedule will be renewed and maintained by the parish legal department, now therefore be it ordained by the Ascension Parish governing authority that the Ascension Parish Code of Ordinances be amended to add Section 2, Administration, Article 1, in general be amended as more fully described in Exhibit A attached here to and made a part hereof. Severability in the event any portion of this ordinance is ever held invalid or unconstitutional for any reason by any court of competent jurisdiction over it. Such portion shall be deemed a separate, distinct, and independent provision and shall not affect the validity of the remaining portion of the ordinance. Effective date, this ordinance shall be in full effect as permitted by law. Ordinance has been submitted to vote. The vote thereon was as follows.
Motion to open public hearing by Mr. Mason, second by Ms. Petey. Motion to close by Mr. Mason, a second by Mr. Vornado. Motion to move the ordinance by Mr. Mason, second by Mr. Hillensbeck. Any objection? Hearing none, so moved. All right, 9M, renew an ordinance to declare surplus and authorize the sale and/or transfer of miscellaneous movable equipment.
Purpose, to declare surplus and authorize the sale and transfer of miscellaneous movable equipment, whereas the parish of Ascension has certain assets that are surplus and no longer viable to retain, and whereas the assets no longer serve as or have any public purpose, and whereas the parish of Ascension desires to declare said assets as surplus and provide for the sale and or transfer of same, whereas be it ordained by the Ascension Parish Council acting in its capacity as a governing authority that it hereby declares a listing of assets attached hereto and made part hereof as Exhibit A as surplus and authorized as a sale and or transfer of same. Severability in the event that any portion of this ordinance ever held invalid or unconstitutional for any reason by any court of competent jurisdiction over it, such portion shall be deemed a separate, distinct, and independent provision and shall not affect the validity of the remaining portion of the ordinance. Effective date, the ordinance shall be in full effect as permitted by law. The ordinance having been submitted to a vote, the vote thereon was as follows.
Motion to open public hearing by Ms. Petey, a second by Mr. Mason. Motion closed by Mr. Mason, second by Ms. Petey. Motion to move the ordinance by Mr. Mason. Any objection? No, I need a second, I'm sorry. Second by Mr. Vornado. Any objection? Hearing none, so moved. I will tell y'all, the next time someone whispers, I will call a 2-hour recess to this meeting. Motion, second. Give me some gusto. Everybody's name up here has like 3 or 4 syllables, and I'm trying to listen to the whisper. That's enough. 9P, reading of an ordinance to declare surplus and authorize the sale and/or transfer miscellaneous immovable property commonly known as Lala Ruggiero Field. Mr.
Purpose,
Patty.
to declare surplus and authorize the sale and or transfer of miscellaneous immovable property commonly known as Lala Ruggiero Field. Whereas the parish of Ascension has certain immovable property that is surplus and no longer viable to retain, and whereas the movable property no longer serves as or has any public purpose, and whereas the parish of Ascension desires to declare said immovable property as surplus and provide for the sale and or transfer of same. Whereas be it ordained by the Ascension Parish Council acting in its capacity as the governing authority, that it is hereby declares the movable property attached hereto and made a part hereof Exhibit A as surplus and authorizes the sale and or transfer of same. Severability in the event that any portion of this ordinance is ever held invalid or unconstitutional for any reason by any court of competent jurisdiction over it, such portion shall be deemed a separate, distinct, and independent provision and shall not affect the validity of the remaining portion of the ordinance. Effective date, the ordinance shall be in full effect as permitted by law. The ordinance have been submitted to a vote. Vote thereon as follows.
Motion to open public hearing.
Motion to open public hearing by Mr. Mason, a second by Mr. Arsenault, who's whispering. Motion to close by Mr. Mason and a second by Mr. Joseph. Motion to move the ordinance by Mr. Joseph, a second by Mr. Hillensbeck. Any objection? Hearing none, so moved. I can't win with y'all. It's just 9S, reading of an ordinance to amend the Ascension Parish Unified Land Developmental Code, Appendix 4, Section 17-40100, definitions by adding floodplain management plan, FMP, and off-site drainage assessment, ODA. Mr.
Purpose
Patch.
to amend the Ascension Parish Unified Land Development Code, Appendix 4, Subdivision Regulations, Section 17-40100, definitions, adding two new definitions, whereas Ascension Parish is a local governmental subdivision that's defined by Article 6, Section 44 of the Louisiana Constitution, 1974, and whereas Parish of Ascension is governing and responsible body over zoning and regulation within its jurisdiction, and whereas Article 6 of the Home Rule Charter of Ascension Parish, adopted May 4, 1993, identifies the process and manner in which to adopt ordinances regulating the lands of this parish, and now therefore it be it ordained by the Ascension Parish Governing Authority that the Unified Land Development Code of Ascension Parish, Louisiana, Appendix 4, Subdivision Regulations, Section 17-40100, definitions, is amended as more fully described in Exhibit A attached here to and made a part hereof. Severability in the event that any portion of ordinance is ever held invalid or unconstitutional for any reason by court of competent jurisdiction over it, such portion shall be deemed a separate, distinct, and independent provision, and shall not be affect the validity of the remaining portions of the ordinance. Effective date, the ordinance shall be in full effect as permitted by law. The ordinance having been submitted to vote, the vote thereon is as follows.
Motion to open the public hearing by Mr. Mason. Second by Mr. PT. Motion to close by Mr. Joseph. Second by Mr. Arsenault. Motion to move the ordinance by Mr. Mason, a second by Mr. Hillingsbeck. Any questions, comments, objection on this item? Hearing none? So moved. All right, 9V, reading of ordinances to amend the Ascension Parish Unified Land Developmental Code, Appendix 4, Attachment B, Drainage Impact Study Procedure, Paragraph 1, Study Conclusions and Recommendations, and Paragraph J, Consideration for Protecting Existing Watersheds and Conveyance Systems.
Purpose to amend the Ascension Parish Unified Land Development Code, Articles, Appendix 4, Subdivision Regulations, Attachment B, Drainage Impact Study Procedure, whereas Ascension Parish is a local government subdivision as defined by Article 6, Section 44 of Louisiana Constitution of 1974, and whereas Parish of Ascension is the governing and responsible body over the zoning and regulation within the jurisdiction, and whereas Article 6 of the Home Rule Charter of Ascension Parish adopted May 4, 1993, identifies the process and manner in which to adopt ordinances regulating the lands of the parish, and now therefore be it ordained by the Ascension Parish Governing Authority that the Unified Land Development Code of Ascension Parish, Louisiana, Appendix 4, Subdivision Regulations, Attachment B, Drainage Impact Study Procedure is amended as more fully described in Exhibit A attached here to and made a part hereof. Severability in the event that any portion of this ordinance is ever held invalid or unconstitutional for any reason by court of competent jurisdiction over it, such portion shall be deemed a separate, distinct, and independent provision and shall not affect the validity of the remaining portion of the ordinance. Effective date, the ordinance shall be in full effect as permitted by law. The ordinance having been submitted to a vote. The vote thereon is as follows.
Motion to open the public hearing by Mr. Mason, a second by Mr. Arsenault. Motion to close by Mr. Robert and a second by Mr. Joseph. Motion to move the ordinance by Mr. Mason and a second by Mr. Hillingsbeck. I do have a question before we vote, I'm assuming this is going to be for you, Mr. Poche. Look, so just looking at it, so we're basically on the conveyance system, right? We're going to let the HECRAS, let the H&H, really determine that, and we're eliminating the X amount of feet from like a certain waterway or things like that. Like we're just going to let the model kind of determine that.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Like like currently as written, like 50 to 100 feet downstream of the development. Mm-hmm. Like we used to have those type of criteria specifications, and I see we're deleting that. So and what we're adding is the analysis required for the impact conveyance will be dictated by the results of the ODA as described in the ordinance. If the ODA screening process determines that an ODA is required, the parish will perform it based on information provided by the applicant. So like, my question is, we're eliminating the old language.
We're eliminating the old way and accepting the new way.
Right. So right. It won't be, I guess you'd say subjective. It'll be just based on whatever that model shows.
Well, we're getting rid of the old tool and we're implementing the newer tool that will be more accurate.
Okay. Tenfold. Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
All right.
All right. So we had a motion by Mr. Mason and a second by Mr. Joseph. All right. Any questions? Any objections? Hearing none. So moved. All right. 9Y. Reading of an ordinance to amend the Ascension Parish Unified Land Developmental Code, Appendix 5, drainage to add new section 17-506.3, off-site drainage assessment. Mr. Dupatti.
Purpose, to amend the Ascension Parish Unified Land Development Code, Appendix 5, drainage to add section 17-506.3, off-site drainage assessment, whereas Ascension Parish is a local governmental subdivision as defined by Article 6, Section 44 of the Louisiana Constitution, 1974, and whereas the Parish of Ascension is the governing and responsible body over the zoning and regulations within its jurisdiction, whereas Article 6 of the Home Rule Charter of Ascension Parish adopted May 4, 1993, that identifies the process and manner in which to adopt ordinances regulating the lands of this parish, and now therefore be ordained by the Ascension Parish Governing Authority that the Unified Land Development Code of Ascension Parish, Louisiana, Appendix 5, drainage is amended to add section 17-506.3 of off-site drainage assessment as more fully described in Exhibit A, attached to hereto and made a part hereof, severability. In the event that any portion of this ordinance is ever held invalid or unconstitutional for any reason by any court of competent jurisdiction over it, such portion shall be deemed a separate, distinct, and independent provision and shall not affect the validity of the remaining portions of the ordinance. Effective date, this ordinance shall be in full effect as permitted by law. The ordinance having been submitted to a vote, the vote thereon as follows.
Motion for public hearing by Mr. Mason, a second by Ms. P.T. Motion closed by Mr. Joseph. Who was that? Was it you? A second by Ms. P.T. Oh, yeah, Mr. Mason, please.
So, obviously, we were given three options on which of the kind of the fee schedules we were going to accept, and I would like to make a motion to accept option 2.
This is,
So we
this is
hadn't
not
got
the
the-
fee
that's the
structure.
next
Which one is? I thought you
It's,
said it was the third one, Ricky.
BB,
Sorry, I lied. Just kidding.
BB.
Jokes. Why are we reading the same ordinance 5 times?
Okay. Okay, so we have a, I forgot, do I have a motion?
Motion to move.
All right, a motion by Mr. Mason.
Mason.
BB. All right, who had my second?
Second.
Second by Mr. PT. All right. Any questions, any objections? Hearing none, so moved. All right, 9BB, reading of ordinance to amend the Ascension Parish Unified Land Developmental Code, Appendix 12, the fees.
Purpose, to amend the Ascension Parish Unified Land Development Code, Appendix 12, fees to add fees for the off-site drainage assessments. Whereas Ascension Parish is a local governmental subdivision as defined by Article 6, Section 44 of the Louisiana Constitution, 1974, and whereas Parish of Ascension is the governing and responsible body over the zoning and regulation within the jurisdiction, and whereas Article 6 of the Home Rule Charter of Ascension Parish adopted May 4, 1993, identifies the process and manner in which to adopt ordinances regulating the lands of this parish, and now therefore be it ordained by the Ascension Parish Governing Authority that the Unified Land Development Code of Ascension Parish, Louisiana, Appendix 12, fees, is amended as more fully described in Exhibit A, attached hereto and made a part hereof. Severability in the event that any portion of this ordinance is ever held invalid or unconstitutional for any reason by any court of competent jurisdiction over it, such portion shall be deemed a separate, distinct, and independent provision and shall not affect the validity of the remaining portion of the ordinance. Effective date, this ordinance shall be in full effect as permitted by law. The ordinance have been submitted to vote. The vote thereon as follows.
Motion for public hearing by Mr. Mason, and second by Mr. Robert. Motion closed by Mr. Arsenault. Second by Mr. Joseph. Now, I'll entertain a motion on the ordinance. Yep, you can do this one.
Thank you. Okay, so I want to go with option 2. I make a motion to accept option 2. I'm waiting for somebody to tell me it's wrong.
Where am I? Let's see. Okay, so we have so before the meeting, Mr. Poche gave us some options on the fees. And so Mr. Mason is making a amendment that we accept option 2, you said?
Yes, sir.
That we are accepting the option 2 fee schedule that we received right here. And Mr. Hillensbeck has seconded the amendment. Yeah, I'm sorry, y'all, I'm daydreaming. Let's see, Ms. PT, you had first question?
Yeah, looking at the options, I mean, option 2's cleaner, average, the numbers are round and even. Is there a reason, when you look at the cost difference between option 1 and option 2, and the actual cost? I mean, by projecting actual cost, is this actual cost to the parish? Or is this
Yes, I mean,
actually what we bear and then the fee schedule should be option 2 would actually represent a little bit of a loss, correct?
If you, are you referring to the
Yes,
spreadsheet?
yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All three of those will play, the items on the top are based on actual numbers after actual reviews on actual jobs.
Okay.
Option 1 that you see is an option where we took everything across the board and had a base screening of $500. If an ODA was deemed necessary, each project would be charged a base fee of $5,000 plus $125 per acre for anything over 30 acres. And then all the way on the bottom right, you see the total cost that would expand out to. The second option was to differentiate between projects that were up to 5 acres and over 5 acres, where you would have an initial screening on all projects of $500, base fee for the first submittal that would cover reviews for the first and second submittal for projects under 5 acres would be $2,500, and any review after the third review would be $1,250. Any project that was greater than 5 acres would have a screening of $500, a first submittal fee that would cover the first and second reviews of $5,000, and any subsequent reviews over 2 would be $2,500 per review. And then on the bottom right, you will see that lower number there. And I think one of the big concerns that we had from a lot of people was that we wanted to make sure that we weren't overcharging people for things. And the vast majority of the projects that we see from a commercial standpoint are gonna be less than 5 acres. And this is something that we can always assess as far as how much the parish is expending in manpower and fees to review these things versus what we're getting from those fees. And we can make adjustments if we, either up or down as we see.
Okay. Have we clearly defined, or do we have clear definition, and forgive me, I didn't, as far as the ODA and the new stuff, what would trigger a 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th? Is that just revisions in the project, or is that if something comes back, it's incorrect, so it needs to be corrected, and now we have to do another ODA?
I will try to answer that. Basically, what we're trying to achieve is we're trying to achieve 0 impact on a project upstream or downstream of the project. The reason that we want to give the models to the consultants to perform their reviews internally is so that they can manipulate their projects and get it as close as possible before they submit it to us. And basically, if they submit something and we plug it into the model and go through that and it shows an impact, it's gonna be like, okay, you can either stop here and abandon your project, or you're gonna have to do another submittal. So whatever the results of the reviews are is gonna dictate whether or not they're gonna have to go to the next one.
Okay, that makes sense. I appreciate the streamline. I actually have a constituent who is trying to open a business right now, and his facility is back and forth and back and forth. So
Yeah.
the fact that you're allowing them to use the model for the fee, I appreciate, because I think he's had to go back to his own engineers a couple times, and that's so much more additional cost
Right,
each
that's
time.
right.
So,
Yes.
okay, I'm good, thanks.
Mr. Arsenault.
Yeah, thank you. I think you answered the first question. If we realize we're charging too much or too little, we can always go back and adjust this, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And the other comment I had, just thank y'all for taking comments and being thoughtful about how we're doing this. That was my concern last meeting. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Mr. Mason.
So, Councilman PT and Mr. Poche, you kind of stirred up something when y'all thought went in my head. Whenever we do this for like a year or so, and then we come back and we say we need to adjust the fees, would they be able to kind of like capture how much manpower and time and that kind of stuff we're using so we can make a better decision? Because, I mean, I know we're kind of taking a shot in the dark with this one, like we're just kind of seeing the sticks and see how it works financially. But I would like to see some numbers maybe in a year or so after we've kind of done this a few times to see, like, are we, like Brett and Blaine were both saying, like, are we losing money? Are we making money? Like,
Right.
just so we kind of have an idea going forward on how to do that. So that's just one thing I would request to just kind of piggybacking off those other two gentlemen.
Sure. I mean, certainly we can do that from a consultant standpoint. It's a little bit harder with internal staff, but,
Yeah, I
from-
mean, just,
for
yeah,
consultants, certainly.
Do we have any more questions for Mr. Poche? Yeah, Mr. Joseph.
Mr. Poche, I just want to make sure this plan here is only for the east side of the river zone as
Funny.
of today.
So,
Funny
so,
that-
funny thing just happened. So Mr. Poche, he had marked this up for us, and I'm not taking the blame. I'm blaming all 10 of us, but none of us made the motion, right, to add the language on the East Bank. So once we get done with this, I would entertain a motion to revisit why, and we can make these, we can make those
We
amendments.
could just charge people on this side of that, man.
But, yeah.
I'm pretty quiet right now.
You know what? I'm blaming Mr. Poche. It's his fault. It's not our fault. We don't mess up. Let's see. All right, Mr. Poche. Look, so my first thing, as I look at it, and based on these fees, like these are actual fees from CSRS and the City of Central, is that the City of Central lost $18,000, right? If they would have adopted option 2, based on their actual cost and what they would have, brought in 66,000, and it was actually, 84,561 on actual cost. So they would have lost, roughly 18,000, give or take, on the second. That makes me a little hesitant. I would prefer option 1 just because it's, you're almost at a net zero, but I guess for like a year or so, I'm okay. And just like Mr. Mason said, let's revisit in a year if we're.
The main concern, I think, is that we don't want to gouge anybody on a
Right.
lot of these projects. I mean, the parish does not make money doing these reviews. We try to get as close as we can to breaking even, and I think everyone would rather err on the side of caution and have the parish bear a little bit more of that responsibility and then make an assessment, like you said, like Councilman Mason suggested, and look at it in a year. And I mean, this can be a yearly occurrence. I mean, anytime you guys want us to look at fees collected, what we're making, development fees, permit, whatever it is, you can certainly ask, and we can provide that information, and y'all can decide whether you want to try and make adjustments.
Okay. Mr. Compton.
Yeah, so I'm just going to put the onus on the two handsome gentlemen in the crowd that as submittals come in and we go through this process, it may be 2 months, it may be 3 months, and we may have enough information at that point to say, yeah, we're losing our shirt. But it'll depend on the market and how many plans we get submitted and over what time frame we have enough data to say the fee we're charging is sufficient or it isn't, and we can come back to you guys at any point and introduce a revision to the fee schedule. That's not a problem. And, again, I'm hopeful that CSRS is going to stay on top of this with Eric, and we'll have that information as it's happening.
Okay.
I won't have to wait till I've lost 18,000 to come to y'all.
Okay. Let's see. Mr. Robert.
I just wanted to kind of echo what you were saying as far as not gouging out on developers or anybody doing business. I mean, if we look at these bottom lines, I mean, you're looking at close to $100,000 for some of these projects. And I think I'm not against it. We've tightened our code a lot. We require a lot more on traffic studies. We require them to go a lot further down the road, which is almost 3 to 4 times what a traffic study used to cost for different projects. So you're looking at going from already 15 to 20,000 to 60 or 70,000 just on a traffic study. So I absolutely would prefer to, err on the side of caution and not overcharge people. Secondly, I wanted to bring up a point, and by no means am I trying to say that this is happening, but the only concern that I see with us using the review agency that we do, and the, you specified with these review agencies in the system, is the economy. I mean, economics. I don't want it to whack out what people are actually paying for these studies. If you have 1 or 2 companies doing them, they can adjust the prices, and next thing you know, our prices are actually way higher than what a free market would be. With that said, I'm not saying that's happening, but it's something that could happen in any situation, and I'd like to have some type of check or balance in place to where we can, see how close to, I don't know if we get 3 bids, 4 bids, not even for, requests for services necessarily, but just to make sure we're still in the same park as.
And I have done that on some of those traffic studies. I've gotten multiple estimates from different
And as I'm
consultants,
saying, I'm not saying it's
just to try
happening
and
now.
verify that.
I just think it's something that could happen, especially
Sure.
in, I was in the restaurant business forever. I mean, you gotta watch your invoices, everything, because they're not gonna change the prices on the things that you notice, they're gonna change on your flour.
Right.
So same type deal. Itemized, apples to apples, every so often, just to make sure we're keeping it fair for everybody developing and paying these fees.
Yeah.
Okay, so any more questions? Or did you want to say something else, Mr. Compton? No? Okay, so we have, an amendment on the floor by Mr. Mason to adopt the option 2, fee schedule with the ordinance, and we had a second by, Mr. Hillensbeck. All right, any objection? Hearing none, so move. Yeah, Ms. Poche and Mr. Compton, we do, like a 9-day turnaround from the last discussion, so appreciate y'all getting all these numbers together and making us feel a little better about it. So before we move on, I would like a motion to reconsider 9AA on the ordinance that we passed to make all right, I have a motion to reconsider by Mr. Joseph and a second by Mr. Hillensbeck. So we're going to reconsider 9AA, and so we do have this form. I'm gonna go ahead and just state the changes for the record that Mr. Poche has presented us. For section 17-506.3 is to add section A. This section applies to all developments on the east bank of the Mississippi River. It will not be applicable to the west bank until such time as west bank hydraulic models are created. So that is the first line of language added. Another one is in section B3, is that we're adding that the FMP models shall be provided upon request to developers to assist in meeting all requirements. That shall took the place of may, so we shall provide anybody with this. And then B4, at the very end of the sentence, we're adding based on existing data in the parish model. And that is for the, on the first stage of the ODA, we'll use the current model, we'll look at it and, best determine if they need to go to that stage two, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so that is the 3 amendments that Mr. Poche has put together for us, and I'll entertain a motion. I have a motion by Ms. Petey, a second by Mr. Hillensbeck. Any objection? Hearing none, so moved. All right, thank you. 9EE, reading of an ordinance to amend Chapter 19, Roads, Bridges, and Other Public Ways, Article 4, Transportation Impact Fees, Section 19-51D, Establishment of Transportation Impact Fee Schedule of the Ascension Parish Code of Ordinance, a 3.17% decrease. Mr. Dupaty.
To amend Chapter 19, Roads, Bridges, and Other Public Ways, Article 4, Transportation Impact Fees, Section 19-51D, Establishment of Transportation Impact Fee Schedule of the Ascension Parish Code of Ordinances. Whereas in May 2023, Duncan and Associates completed a transportation impact fee study for Ascension Parish using a consumption-based model, which proposes to charge a new development the cost of replacing the capacity that is consumed on the major roadway system. And whereas the Parish of Ascension determined that it is in the best interest of the citizens of Ascension Parish to establish transportation impact fees to assist in the mitigation of the transportation impact of the rapid growth of the transportation network within Ascension Parish. And whereas the Parish of Ascension adopted an ordinance on August 17, 2023, amending the transportation impact fees, ordinance based on the above study, now therefore be it ordained by the Ascension Parish Governing Authority of the Parish of Ascension, State of Louisiana, Chapter 19, Road, Bridges, and Other Public Ways, Article 4, Transportation Impact Fee, Section 19-51D, Transportation Impact Fee Schedule be amended and supplemented as further described in Exhibit A attached here to and made a part hereof. Repeal all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith or hereby and henceforth repeal, severability, and if any provision of this ordinance is ever held invalid, such invalidity shall not affect other provisions herein, which can be given effect without the invalid provisions. And to this end, the provisions of this ordinance are hereby declared to be severable. Effective date, the ordinance shall be in full effect as permitted by law. The ordinance having been submitted to a vote, the vote thereon was as follows.
Motion to open public hearing by Mr. Mason, second by Mr. PT. Motion to close public hearing by Mr. Mason, second by Mr. Vornado. Motion to move the ordinance by Mr. Mason, second by Mr. Hillingsbeck. Any objection? Hearing none, so moving. No, Michael is the wind beneath my wings. We'd be here for an hour and a half if I didn't have my man down there. All right, item number 10, executive session. 10A, consideration of hiring Talbot, Colmers, and Marcello on the Long and Long Law Firm to represent Ascension Parish in the existing class action lawsuit regarding PFAS chemicals, aqueous film forming foams, product liability litigation, United States District Court, South Carolina. I have a motion to enter executive session by Mr. Mason. And a second by Mr. Vornado. If everyone would please vote to enter executive session. All right, we are entering executive session. All right, Chair, entertain motion to reconvene. Motion by Mr. Hillensbeck. Second by Mr. Mason. We are reconvene. Chair will entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to hire Talbot, Carmouche, Marcello, excuse me, and the Long and Long firm to represent Ascension Parish in existing PFA's litigation and to file a claim in the aqueous film forming foams product liability litigation, United States District Court, South Carolina, Charleston Division, MDL number 2:18MM2873RMG.
Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Joseph. Any objection? Hearing none, so move. We have a motion to go into executive session by Mr. Robert, a second by Mr. PT, and this is for consideration of settlement authority in the matter of A&R Construction versus Ascension Parish. Everybody please vote to enter executive session. And we are in executive session.
man, we ain't been here for 6 months. You gotta give us a chance. Jesus. This guy. The patience after one term.
All right, Chair, entertain a motion to reconvene.
Motion.
All right, we have a motion to reconvene by Mr. Hillsbeck and a second by Mr. Vornado. And we have a motion to adjourn by Mr. Mason and a second by Mr. Vornado. We are adjourned.